Hey guys, so today's YouTube video is a couple of weeks late, and that is largely because the past few weeks have just been very weird and there have been a lot of transitions going on at my house. Also last week, and we didn't have internet for, it was, I want to say from like Thursday to Tuesday, we didn't have internet, so that kind of threw a lot of stuff off because certain things that I would have thought would work on my computer, certain programs that should have worked without internet, for some reason weren't working. So that's part of the reason why last week's YouTube video just didn't happen. And then it kind of threw a lot of stuff I was doing off, and it's kind of just taken a whole week to recover and readjust and figure out the flow of things again. So that is why this is a very late YouTube video. I did take a poll on my Instagram and ask what kind of piece folks wanted to see from me next, whether it would be a traditional piece or a digital piece. And it was overwhelmingly a majority of people wanting to see more of a traditional piece from me. So my next YouTube video should be a traditional piece. I'm going to be working on one this week, and I'll sketch that and I will record the process of painting it because it will probably be a watercolor piece. So, in full disclosure, I've been having a hard time coming up with YouTube topics. You would think, oh, there's a ton of them out there, you can just talk to your heart's delight. And that's actually not necessarily the case. It's been very difficult lately for me to come up with what I wanted to talk about. When I got my new drawing tablet, the Huion, there was a very obvious topic there, so I could do a review, and so I did that, and that was a lot of fun, and it was an easy topic to come up with. But other than that, I have been having some trouble figuring out what to talk about. So if you have any suggestions, I would be so grateful to hear them. Please, please, please drop a suggestion in the comments if there's something in particular you would like to hear from me about or hear me talk about. If there's a part of my process you would like me to explain, I would love to know what it is. Always looking for new topics for YouTube videos. So today, in lieu of anything more productive, because I couldn't think of anything, I decided I was going to talk about my story, Jade Torch. The piece you're seeing me work on now is of a couple of characters from Jade Torch. Or at least one of them is in Jade Torch, the girl, but the little boy isn't so much in the main story of Jade Torch. He is a character who grew out of no intention of mine. He just kind of happened. And he actually has a story that is more so focused on him and his journey. So he's kind of like a spin-off character from Jade Torch, which I think is kind of fun. But other than that, the girl and her dragon there that you're seeing me work on now, they are characters from Jade Torch. And I look forward to y'all getting to know them better. I am currently producing Jade Torch as a webcomic. It has been on hiatus for a very, very sadly extended amount of time, which I did not plan. It just kind of happened. But I have been working on new pages with some changes regarding how I'm producing pages, and I have 2 completely done, and I'm hoping to build up several more complete pages before I start posting again. That way I have a little bit of a queue, a little bit of a buffer, because inevitably I will have things come up that just prevent me from doing a page a week. In reality, in the dream world, I would love to produce and post more than 1 page a week. I'd love to do a whole handful of pages per week, because this isn't a story that I want to drag out. It is a story that I would like to tell y'all, and for y'all to see it and to be able to experience with me, sooner rather than later. So it's definitely not something I want to spend years and years and years on. But in reality, I I can't produce 5 pages a week. I would love to. I can't. But hopefully the changes to how I'm producing pages will make it to where I can make more pages and post pages more frequently. I'm hoping to get back onto a weekly schedule, and I would love to get onto a bi-weekly schedule. Hopefully as I get into the flow of it and I get more accustomed to the new workflow, hopefully it will go faster. I am trying to streamline some things. But that being said, if you didn't know, yeah, I have a webcomic. It's called Jade Torch. You can find it at jadetorch.com. I will link it in the description. It is my brainchild. I love this story. This story had its genesis back, I want to say the very first iterations of it were in 2007 or 2008. So it's been in my head for a really long time. It's changed so much in that time, but it's still very dear to my heart. So over the past 10, 12 years, I know I've rewritten the first chapter. It was going to be a novel. And I know I rewrote the first chapter 4 or 5 times at least. I don't know how many versions of the first chapter there were, trying to figure out how best to introduce the main character and her story and the world she grew up in and the world she was experiencing. But then over the years, as I kept rewriting, that first chapter and trying to figure out what this story was about, where it went, because at its core, it was more of a character story. Jade Torch for me has always been more about the characters than about the actual story, because in my mind these are characters that they have a lot of stories. They go on adventures and they do great things, and I'm just picking one of their stories to tell. So it was always much more of a character-driven project than a story-driven project. I want the story to be fantastic because it should be, and because the characters that are in the story, deserve a fantastic story, in my opinion. And so I've always wanted the story to be good, but it's always been about the characters. And over the years, ever since I started, the characters kept expanding. The world they inhabited kept expanding. I would add new characters who would make it so much more rich, such a better story, and who would really help to grow the story in all the best ways. And I finally came up with a version of the story I liked, 2015 probably. And that's when I really started devoting a lot of time into periodically writing a lot on the story. I know that first draft, I never actually finished it, but I got several chapters into it to where I really had a good idea of where the story was going. I knew how it ended, I just didn't know all of the minutiae in the middle. And that is ultimately the story that I've settled on for it. And changes are still happening as I learn more about stories, as I flesh out these characters. Changes are still happening, but they're kind of as you go changes, the kind of changes that, I'm not shattering the canon of what I've already put out there. So in fall of 2018, after I'd graduated with my undergrad and I just started my master's program, I decided I kind of had a mental breakdown because I got into my first week of master's classes and I realized, oh my goodness, I am putting myself through more school to get another degree. I don't think I can handle my life just being about school for another year and a half, 2 years. That was kind of the same week I decided, no, I can get this master's a degree done in a year and a half. I'm not going to take the 2 years. I'm going to get it done in a year and a half. But I also decided, yes, I'm going to get it done, but I need something else, a creative outlet, something else to kind of have some purpose beyond just school, and something else to be working towards. And so I decided, hey, I have this story that I've been working on for years. I have this story I love. I've decided I want to make a comic. There's no point in waiting until I'm good enough to draw a comic, because I'm never going to get there. That's like, you just have to do it. You're always going to be improving, and so you're never going to be the best you can be. You know, am I ready to do it? That's kind of a stupid question, because you're ready. It's almost more of a mindset. You're ready when you do it, not, you have to get ready to do it. But I did feel like I was to the point in my skill set to where, I really don't have an excuse anymore. I can't keep putting this off. I will learn and I will grow more if I do it. So I finally did start producing pages. I finished writing the prologue in a form that I really liked, and I started producing pages in fall of 2018, and for not quite a year, I very faithfully produced pages and got several pages and all the way through the prologue and several pages into the first chapter, and then school and life and I guess getting that master's degree in a year and a half kind of caught up with me, and I wasn't able to keep producing pages. So that was kind of a bump in the road and a stumbling block. And it kind of tortured me for a while that I wasn't producing pages. And then I finally just decided, hey, stop beating yourself up over this, Anne Marie. You just need to, it may take a while, but you'll get there, and you just need to let it go. Right now is not the time for this. And now I am finally in a bit better of a position after I've graduated to start giving it my attention again. For a while there, because I hadn't been working on it and it had almost become a source of guilt for me, I kind of fell out of love with the story, which is something that happens periodically over the years for me. With this story, I have noticed that pattern. So I was struggling the last several months with, I'm just not, I'm not in love with it right now. I've not abandoned it. I still absolutely want to tell this story. I just don't feel the motivation to right now. And at the same time, I knew, well, there are going to be times in your life where you don't feel motivated to do something. That doesn't mean you don't do it. So that was eating at me too, because I knew that, but I'd also had work and school and all sorts of things going on, and just adding Jade Torch and making comic pages to the mix was a lot. But now I have started producing pages again. I've realized that one of the best ways to help me fall back in love with my story, this story that I'm telling that I absolutely love, but sometimes I just don't always feel like I love it, is one of the things that helps me realize that is finding stories, other people's stories that I love. Found some TV shows recently that just really inspired me, because I could see elements of my characters in those characters. Not the same, they're not the same characters, but I can see the struggles that those characters in the TV shows are going through, and I sit there and I wonder, well, how would my characters handle that? What would they do in this situation? And just those scenarios make me think about my characters and make me remember how much I like them and how much they mean to me. And so that's kind of been happening over the last few weeks, and I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed getting back into the story and diving back in to make art for it. I can tell that I'm falling back in love with my characters, and I really like that. So Jade Torch is returning. The webcomic is returning. There will be some changes to it, as far as production changes, which I'll explain in more detail probably when I start posting new pages. And I'll explain why those changes were made, and hopefully that in the long run these changes are a good thing. I know some people will be disappointed with them. I'm to a certain extent disappointed with them, but I feel like they're necessary changes and that they're changes that in the long run will be better. So that's kind of Jade Torch. It's a story. I haven't explained what it is. It is a story about friendship, family, coming of age, responsibility, and some dragons thrown in there in the mix. I grew up on Aragon and Eldest, and that the Inheritance Cycle books, and then also Tolkien, C.S. Lewis. I don't even know what all dragon books I grew up reading because so many of them aren't coming to my head. I grew up watching Dragonheart. I've always loved dragons, and I also have always kind of enjoyed princess stories, but I don't like princesses that always need to be rescued. I like it when the princess can do the rescuing. So that's the kind of story that Jade Torch is. It's about a warrior princess who rides dragons and explores this world that is not only the country that she will eventually govern, but also the countries beyond that. And it's about the friendships she makes and the relationships she builds and the experience she gains. So that's kind of an overview of Jade Torch, and do check it out. Link will be in the bio. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and please like and subscribe. I appreciate every single one of my likes, every single one of my subscribers, and tune back in next week.